Alabama beat Ole Miss yesterday, 30-24. And what did we know before kickoff of this game? We knew before kickoff, or at least I did because I was watching in the Tulane press box, that LSU had won. And we'll talk about that game later. LSU had won over Arkansas, which meant Bama's out of it as far as the SEC is concerned. Ole Miss, out of it as far as the SEC is concerned if they lose this game. So we have certainly dissimilar motivation levels here. Or did we? And this was, again, a game that I thought was really fun to watch. There was good execution at times. There was horrific execution at times. That's college football. That's what happens. That's the way it's supposed to look. Fortunately, both of these programs are full of competitors. And for competitors, it's nice if you're playing for the playoff. It's nice if you're playing for conference championships. Pride to a casual person doesn't mean a whole heck of a lot. You need ramifications on the line. Pride to a competitor is worth more than any of that stuff. And if that stuff comes along with it, that's great. Playing for pride means a lot to a competitor. And that's why if you were to watch this game yesterday and you covered up the records, just put a little piece of athletic tape over the screen so you can't see the records, the level of play, the effort level, especially in the second half, was requisite to what you would expect if there were postseason spots on the line. It's exactly what it should have looked like. Now, I'm not into just rewarding you for trying hard, but I'll point out something in just a second to maybe backtrack my own sentence there. Maybe I am rewarding you for trying hard. This is the fifth game, as it turns out, for Bama that's come down to either the last play or the last few plays, last 30 seconds or so. Think about that. Sometimes it feels like they go a decade. A decade's a long time. Sometimes it feels like they go years under Nick Saban without that. But the Texas game, final play. A&M, final play. Tennessee, final play. LSU, final play. This one, I think the last 30 seconds or so, and there was a fourth down throw to the end zone, and then Bama took a couple of knees and they ran out the clock. But that's the way it's been for them this year, which makes it fun because when you look back, depending on which perspective you want to use, you're going to be able to say Bama was 2 or 3 plays away from being undefeated, and then someone else is going to be able to say, yeah, but they were also 2 or 3 more plays away from being 7-5. Both of those sentences are going to be true, and there's just not been much margin for error this year. Look at Nick Saban celebrating there. A lot of people laughed at that yesterday. Well, just compartmentalize that for 2023, but it sounds strange. But the Alabama run defense didn't have a bad day yesterday. Now, the reason it sounds strange is because I'm looking at a piece of paper here that tells me Ole Miss ran for nearly 200 yards. But when you consider they ran it 49 times for 191, that's 3.9 per carry. And if you told me Ole Miss was only putting up 3.9 per carry Friday, I would have felt good about Alabama. Because my concern, to be clear, was their mentality coming in here. They struggled on the road even when they're fully dialed in. So if they weren't fully dialed in, I thought run defense was going to be victimized by the team that is most susceptible or most likely to do it, and that being Ole Miss. They didn't really get shredded on the ground, nearly to the degree that Ole Miss has done it to some other teams. And Ole Miss being 0 for 3 on fourth down was a huge contributor to Bama winning this thing. I keep emphasizing the willingness to fight from both teams, but especially Bama, because Bama started the game knowing we're not going to any kind of championship game. But they fought. That started off flat, but second half, man, they were dealing haymakers. They were taking haymakers. There were a number of games across the country like that yesterday. I keep emphasizing the willingness to fight. This is not the best Bama team we've seen as of late. They fought yesterday. Nick Saban was so excited and jubilant on the sideline because you can do all you can as a coach. You really don't know what level of play you're going to get from your guys until you see it. And they fought, man. Bryce Young's far less than 100%. Jace McClellan played his tail off. Byron Young, friend of the program, had a really good day yesterday. They just fought. And the reason I keep emphasizing that is because it's not a given. I don't know how much you've been paying attention lately, but you look around the country, there are some healthy players that aren't in football games. You notice that? There's only 2 possible reasons there. Either they're out because of discipline, or they're out because they don't feel like playing. And I would suggest to you that a lot more of the latter is happening. It's not reported. It's not fun to talk about. Most of the time it's kept quiet. But these dudes on Alabama's team, you would think, have the most incentive to adopt that mentality. And the reason Nick Saban is so excited to just see guys fight is because it's not happening everywhere. There's some guys quitting on their teams. That's what's happening around college football. Some dudes are white flagging it early to preserve themselves however they see fit. It's their right to probably enter the portal, or some guys do it because of draft stock and whatnot, but it's nice, it's refreshing to at least see guys still willing to go to the mat. Coaching changes are going to come here, okay? I know Nick Saban's been publicly critical of himself and not willing to be critical of his coordinators. That's because they are going to be moved on from. At least one of them, I think both. I am very, very confident Bill O'Brien will not be there next year. Very confident O'Brien's name is in a number of these head coaching searches, by the way. Candidly, as far as Ole Miss goes, I didn't expect them to be in this conversation. I mean, I will admit freely, I took the under at 7.5 for them in the preseason when it comes to win total. So they've already achieved, as far as I'm concerned. And so we don't do the apology thing very often here, but I'm sorry. Yes. And I add the cherry on top when I pick them to lose every game. It's become a tradition around here. I don't have anything against Ole Miss. I had a great time when I went over there a few weeks ago. But I think that it's something that needs to be acknowledged, man. Kiffin, even though they're a 2-loss team now, okay, they're a 2-loss team. So is Alabama, for that matter. Ole Miss has been really good this year. And I'm telling you, there were a lot of folks behind the scenes in coaching circles in the administrative world who were circling Ole Miss. I mean, the reason I took the under on them is because I had enough coaches get in my ear and tell me, with those assistants they lost and that quarterback they lost, Kiffin will not be able to duplicate what he did. Now, they may start fast because they got Troy, Central Arkansas, Georgia Tech. Like they've got a soft open to their schedule, but they will hit a brick wall eventually, and there will be no escaping the back half of that schedule. And instead, they beat Kentucky, and they beat Auburn, and they beat Texas A&M. And so they got 2 losses there. They've already hit their over. It doesn't matter if they lose the other 2. I know it is uneasy, or an uneasy feeling for an Ole Miss fan, when you hear your head coach mentioned in rumors of other jobs. It just is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. I thought you guys presented as good a spectacle, as good a home atmosphere yesterday in Oxford as I've seen in a number of years. I mean, the place was on fire. Any recruits that were in town had to be impressed with that. So I want you guys to earmuff yourself for a second, because this is not pleasant talk for you. 3, 2, 1. Okay. So absent the Ole Miss fans in the room. Look, the fact of the matter is Lane Kiffin is going to be in the conversation for some of these jobs, the Auburn job chief among them. Something happened after this game yesterday. Now, in reality, it doesn't change him one iota as a head coach. Lane Kiffin woke up yesterday the exact same caliber of head coach as he went to sleep as last night. But the more I've been around the hiring process, the more I have realized some of the dumbest things in the world, well, not dumb, some of the most inconsequential things in the world in the grand scheme of things actually carry weight in the hiring process. And so I'm going to play some sound here from Lane Kiffin last night, and I want you to juxtapose it to what the perception of Lane Kiffin has been. The perception has been, oh, he's fun, he's easygoing, he's always good for a soundbite, kind of goofy at times, really active on Twitter. And that's all well and good. We're in the entertainment industry, but think about how many administrators out there, how many ADs out there prefer a guy that has more an edge to him, prefers a guy that can get a little salty in a post-game press conference. You are who you are as a coach, but I'm telling you this stuff matters. With that in mind, this is Lane Kiffin after the game.
Judge can still rush for 135 yards against one of the better rush defenses in the country. I mean, just kind of assess just what you saw through him just throughout 60 minutes.
Yeah, I don't, guys, let me just explain it really well. I don't really give a shit about how many yards we had, how close the game was. We didn't win the game. And 2 years ago, we walked off this field, and I said, we didn't come here to cover spreads. We didn't come here to play what at the time was the number 1 team in the country close. So all these things about, well, you did this good, and freshman running back, it doesn't matter. We didn't win the game. So, maybe some other places that's good, or it's been here and good in the past. It ain't good enough. We came here to win, to beat Alabama. We didn't do it. So we're 0-1 today.
Now, you can believe me or not believe me. I don't care because I know this is right. That stuff matters to people who are actually going to be influential in the hiring process at various places. I'm not speaking about any one place individually. How it happens is like this. One influential person hears that soundbite. They text it in a group text to 5 more of their buddies who are also influential. And they all have the latest iPhone because they're all bajillionaires. And they don't really know X's and O's, okay? They probably played 35 years ago and they ran the beer in high school. They have no clue what they're really talking about when they're watching today's game. So absent being able to chalk talk their way through a conversation with Lane Kiffin and an administrator, that stuff is what they gravitate to. They text their AD, they text their chancellor, they text their president, they say, hey, this is what we need in our program. What is it? It's a guy saying words in a microphone. That's what it is. That's the kind of stuff, I'm telling you, whether you believe it or not, that carries as much weight in the hiring process as anything football related. And it is a running joke in coaching circles. Some of the best stories you could ever get from head coaches or assistant coaches especially, who will be honest with you, is what actually got them hired. These guys know it. They understand the game they're playing. A lot of these guys know they could walk in a room full of people who are tasked with making a hire, and they could either explain their offense and explain their philosophy, or they could give a few funny anecdotes, and they could drop a few 4-letter words because for some reason grown men start giggling amongst each other when they hear another grown man cuss. And Lane Kiffin did it yesterday, so he checked all the boxes. That gets people hired. Flat out, it gets people hired. So just keep that in mind. That little edge Lane Kiffin showed you, he's always had it. He just doesn't show it publicly a lot. Just keep that in mind. Guys, thanks for watching Late Kick. Make sure and leave a comment. I love interacting with you. But most of all, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. That's how we keep all of this free.